Hey, Coach, I'm so excited that you found us on YouTube. Let me know how we can help. The video is just a small snippet of all the things we have over at teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's everything. It is the resource for basketball coaches, one-on-one calls, office hours with me. I've coached at every level. I've coached NBA guys. Let me help you become a better basketball coach. Doesn't matter which level you're at. I am here to help. I'm here to serve. So go over and check it out. All right, let's head off to the video.
All right, welcome. Let me turn that down. I'm going to apologize here initially because I'm the only person in the continental United States that has a summer cold. So I'm gonna apologize here. I'll try to clean it up on in the editing bay. But so today we're going to talk about NCAA. We're going to talk about the National Federation. We're going to talk about kind of the recruiting calendar. We're going to talk about a lot of things that related to recruiting and players in high school and collegiate. And the reason we have Matt on today, I'm going to have him introduce himself in a second, but the reason we have him on today is the NCAA kind of changed the summer recruiting process and recruiting calendar. And we were lucky enough. We are in Madison, Wisconsin, which is about on a good traffic day, about 90 minutes, maybe 75 minutes from Rockford. And Matt ran, because this is the first year, ran a showcase in Rockford and had he'll have to tell exactly how many teams he had and all that kind of stuff. But teams from all over the Midwest come and play, and it was an open recruiting window. So him and I were able to meet and connect, and that's why we're having him on. We're going to talk about that. So, Matt, first, I'd like you to introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you do for a living, and then tell people about the showcase, and then we'll dive into the specifics of recruiting and the calendar and what you think some strengths and weaknesses are, and we'll talk about some of what I think is good about it and bad about the NCAA, and we'll go from there. So introduce yourself first and just kind of give us a little background.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Steve, and I really appreciate the opportunity and the time to talk this morning. So my name is Matt Parker, and I am starting my 9th year as the Director of Athletics, Activities, and Program Development for Rockford Public Schools. So I oversee a school district, athletics and activities, basically anything that happens after school, elementary, 4th grade, all the way through 12th grade offerings. So we have a very robust elementary, middle school, and high school athletic and activity offerings. And so it ranges from robotics and esports to Scholastic Bowl to basketball, which is mainly what we'll be talking about this morning.
Two things before we dive any more into this. First thing is, do you have athletic directors in your buildings, or do you oversee everything?
Yes, so we have in our 4 high schools, we have your traditional athletic directors like you'd have it in the Madison public schools. Yep. And then our middle schools have athletic directors who are also teachers that get a pretty good additional stipend, as well as an additional planning period to execute their duties. And then at the elementary schools, there's generally somebody in the building who is getting a small stipend to organize the basketball and cross country and soccer that we offer.
Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm a big PGC thing. I went to a PGC camp, hung out with some other coaches. And so tell me about esports, because I hear esports is literally the next thing. So tell me what that is.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're actually the first school district in the state of Illinois to officially start high school esports teams. So we have currently 5 teams. We have 2 teams at Guilford High School, and we bought special computers and upgraded our network so the kids could play mainly League of Legends, and they've been competing on it in a national high school league called the High School Star League. And so they basically work together in teams of 5 to play a game called League of Legends, which is strategy and teamwork and play in tournaments. Our coaches and athletic directors have been very much involved with the IHSA, which is our Illinois High School Association, potentially adopting esports as an official high school sport as early as next year. So we've had a few people participate in some of the planning committees and work being done with that. And it's just another great way to bring in a whole nother group of kids, make them feel like they're part of the school community, they're part of the team, they get really cool esports uniforms. And globally, there's a really good Vice documentary about esports, but globally it's just massive. I mean, there's
first of all, there's kids that are making like millions and millions of dollars professionally. Like they're becoming pro esports. I mean, it tells you I'm getting old. I had no idea. I mean, I had an idea it was there, but I didn't know how wide it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the kids are making millions of dollars in endorsements and sponsorships, and there's like these, basically esports, unofficial, camps where recruiters are bringing kids in and they're basically playing and advancing, and if they're good enough, then their housing's paid for and
right.
And they get a salary and they're making money. And so
rides to college because of esports. I know. I heard this.
Right.
It's crazy. That's awesome. All right. So keep going. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. So keep going. So
anyway, it's just another great way. It's just another great way to get more kids involved in the school communities. And so that's one of the things that I'm very much involved with and excited about, and falls under my duties.
Right. So tell us more. So how did you decide to get started with the Chicagoland Summer Showcase or Shootout Showcase? Make sure I get it right.
So we've been tracking there was this big investigation, that went on for like 4 years, and really it all came down to the NCAA wanting to create some separation between the shoe companies and some of the major AAU programs from some of these live viewing periods, because there'd been a lot of corruption. The prices were getting absolutely outrageous for college coaches to attend, especially college coaches whose budgets aren't like like a Kansas, for example.
Right.
There are just a lot of things that were concerning. And so when we started getting wind of what potentially could be the rule changes, we started doing our homework, going back to October of last year, and really diving into what it could potentially look like. Started securing facilities of when it could potentially be, and just started working out how we should run it, what type of format. And so then when it became official, we were pretty much ready to go, other than a few of the finer details regarding how it would be set up and what the rules were.
Right.
And there's a ton of work, but definitely well worth it, having 60 teams the first weekend and 78 teams the second weekend from as far away as Florida, was just great to see. And then, we've, I think 42 Division I offers from those 2 weekends. And so it's just a great opportunity for kids to be seen and have their education paid for.
Right. No, there's a couple things. First of all, I think that, I teach statistics, and I tell the kids, always follow the money in life. Just follow the money, and you can usually, most of your questions can be answered. And I think the NCAA obviously makes a lot of money, but I think following the money is really important with the shoe companies and kids. I mean, I've done this long enough. I've been a head coach for 20 plus years and coaching for 30 plus, that I remember the days when, it was maybe 1 or 2 weekends, and it was, you know, kids would go to Peach Jam and that would be it, blah, blah, blah. And that, I don't necessarily think that was the right system either. That's why I think it morphed into something maybe that got out of control. But I do remember a lot more college coaches coming to our gyms, a lot more college coaches coming to stuff in the summer. And I think this is the great kind of middle ground. I think this will be really good for the long term. So explain to people kind of what happens in recruiting in the NCAA and high schools and all that kind of stuff. Give a little background for people listening that have no idea what we're talking about.
So there's historically for, I don't know, the last 10 or 15 years, been four viewing periods throughout the year where college coaches can actually come and watch kids play who are Division I coaches. And those, as you alluded to, have kind of morphed into these big EYBL, Under Armour circuit, UA Rise, you know, these showcases where, you know, it's this big spectacle, and usually most of the kids that were playing were, you know, high level Division I or at least mid-major kids. And I think part of what the NCAA, besides the just tremendous amount of money and different things getting thrown at kids to attend these events, was that there was a whole segment of Division II, Division III, JUCO, et cetera, NAIA kids that could potentially play at that level who just weren't being seen because they weren't playing on these elite programs, and you know, they weren't gathering at one place. So, you know, a coach would have to travel to 50, 60 different locations just to see, you know, a handful of kids. And so, you know, that's one of the nice things about the rule change is that the NCAA said, okay, we'll leave 2 of the live periods for the AAU stuff. So there's one in, I believe, July that just happened, and April still. And then we're going to make 2 weekends in June that have to be run by high schools, and they have to be in what are called scholastic facilities. They can't be in a privately owned facility, whether owned by AAU or a shoe company. They can't be on they can't be on a Division I campus. They have to be in a scholastic facility. It's either a high school or a junior college or a Division III or Division II campus. But they have to be run by high school personnel and organized by high school personnel. And you know, they basically gave us 5 different formats to choose from.
And
one of which was,
what were those 5 formats?
I'd have to look them up specifically, but there was basically like a team camp showcase where you basically invite a bunch of kids and it, you know, they go through drills and then they form teams, and then the teams play, and then there was an individual like all-star top 100 or top 50 or top 150 kid type format. But the one we were really interested in was the team showcase, which would allow the high school coach, as you experienced, to coach your high school team towards the end of the contact day period, which most states allow coaches to have a period of contact days, where they could come play together as the actual high school team and compete against other high school teams. But in front of, you know, I think that second weekend we had 85, 90 college coaches come in. At all different levels.
So did you, that's one question I have. Did you see a difference between weekends? Because it looked like the second weekend was much stronger as far as teams go than the first weekend.
Yes. Okay. The first weekend we were oversaturated in Illinois. There were 4 events sanctioned the first weekend. So we didn't see a lot of the Chicago and Chicago suburb schools stayed in the Chicago area. The second weekend we were one of 2 events in Illinois and one of 9 nationally. So the second weekend was much less saturated as far as options go.
Okay. Yeah. So it's because that was purely observational from me, because we had a couple of teams from our area go the first weekend, and then I watched. It's like, whoa, that first weekend, one was like night and day. So we'll talk about a couple other things. Let me tell you first, for the people listening, I've done this for 20 years. Probably the best officiating. I don't know where you got your officials. Probably the best officials I've seen in a summer high school thing in 20 years. Swear to God. I mean, I can't. We played 4 games. I can't. I mean, I remember a couple calls, and there was literally one call, and I questioned. He walked over. He goes, "Steve, da 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 da." It's like, oh crud, I forgot that. Yep. Or I've never had that happen in the summer. I swear to God. I mean, it was like crazy good officials. So I don't know where you got those guys, but they were really good.
Yeah, it was really important for us to have really good officiating, and so we did a couple things. One was we hired 3 officials for every game on every court, which was important for us to do that. And we also ran on the second weekend, we started a referee clinic that started on Thursday, where we brought in college officials, high school officials who are certified teachers, as well as a WNBA official, Danica Mosier, who also officiated some games on Saturday. And so that clinic included, on-court time, film review, looking at positioning in front of mirrors, and then also reviewing the actual game film from that Saturday morning, later in the afternoon. So, we tried to draw in a really good pool of officials, but then also wanted to have a training component with it, because we're, here in Illinois, we just have a real aging population of officials, and it's becoming a problem. And if we can help do something about it, and really, we were targeting female officials, minority officials, and younger officials who are interested,
right?
And really trying to help them along, and that's something we're going to do moving forward. But yeah, that was definitely a focus of ours. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
up.
literally would not say that. I mean, I'm shooting this out to the world, so I'm telling you, it was like the best. I mean, we were 0-4. We had about half of our squad. We were 0-4, and and I sent something to one of my assistants. I said, "Wow, the officials are really good down here." And he knew we were like 0-3, so he texts us back and he goes, "Steve, are you being sarcastic or not?" Because you sometimes say, the officials are really good. I go, "No, they are. We're coming back. They are really good. It's really, So I've coached in ones or watched ones, probably watched more than coached, that people do those clinics. Whatever you did to do the clinic, you couldn't tell. Sometimes I go to those and they're doing clinics, and it's like, whoa, these guys are really, or gals are really learning. And they have not. So I don't know if you matched them up or whatever you did, but these are people that had done games, had talked to coaches, understood how the game was played. It was very good. So that was the first compliment. Second compliment: facilities are awesome. I mean, that's a huge JUCO that you guys have that we played our first day in. I don't know how many that seats, but it's wow. But great facilities, unbelievably good facilities. And I love that it wasn't a running clock.
Yes.
We played in one yesterday, and it's like we ended up losing in the championship yesterday, and it's like it hadn't been a running. I mean, if the clock stops, it's such a different game. It's like I felt like I was coaching in yours last night. Yesterday, I felt like I was herding cats sometimes because the clock never stops. People are foul. Right. It's like, so I love that. It felt like coaching a high school game, which is probably what we were trying to get across.
Absolutely.
So I when I looked at the list on that second weekend, it's probably harder for I saw a couple D3 schools outside of the area. That's one of the reasons I think they're trying to do this too, is because D3 schools can't fly all over the country.
Correct.
So I saw a couple. My son's thinking about going out east. I saw a couple from the area that he's looking, but most of them were from the Midwest, which is great. That's probably where their recruiting base is anyway. But yeah, and did you charge college coaches to come in, or how does that work for them?
Yeah, the rules prohibited you to charge more than a certain amount,
Okay.
and so we actually charged less than what the top amount could have been for team entry, as well as college coach entry and college coach booklets. We had some really nice booklets made up that had every kid, their number, their name. If the coach put the cell phone number in, their contact information, or the coach's contact information, that the college coaches could buy as well. But yeah, it was very, very affordable, especially for those schools that don't have these massive $1 million budgets.
Okay, so let's talk about some things that you think could change. So, what is there anything between the federation, the NCAA, that you think is an issue at this point? Do you like the weekends that it happened, when it happened, kind of how they're working together?
Yeah, I think it's a great move, and I think that it provides a great opportunity for first and foremost, kids to be seen, and specifically kids to be seen who are not high level Division I players. And so that provides a tremendous amount of opportunity. One of the things that I've talked to with our high school association and our Illinois Basketball Coaches Association that we'll be reviewing in upcoming meetings is that there really needs to be, in our opinion, some national standards for those 2 weekends that all associations throughout the country need to follow, so that it provides even more opportunity for kids. There were several states who did not allow their teams and kids to leave the state or to even participate in any events anywhere. There were several basketball coaches associations who wouldn't endorse certain events and basically told their members not to go specific places. And so, a lot of this has to do with it being new, not everybody really being educated on what the intent is and why the NCAA changed the rules. But I think if we start from what's good for kids and what's good for programs, and then build from there and make some national standards that everyone needs to follow, which includes kids can go anywhere. So if a team from California wants to travel to Illinois to play some different competition and get their kids exposed to Midwest coaches, they should be able to do that.
Yeah. So here's my question. So Wisconsin has the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association and has the WIA, which is the Wisconsin Interscholastic Association. Anyway, so are you talking both of them have to agree? Who makes the decision on that? It's the WIA, right?
So yeah, the WIA makes the decision, the ultimate decision. But what the National Federation had encouraged states to do was to work with their Basketball Coaches Association to reach whatever decisions. And some states that worked really well. Some states there was some infighting between associations, and some states, prohibited teams to play in the first weekend but allowed them to play in the second weekend. And so there just wasn't a standard.
Right. And it's like you're trying to get 50 relatives to all talk to each other and be nice. And
Exactly.
And the thing is, I think our state didn't just kind of sat on it too. It's like, I think there was a little bit of, what is this? I don't really get it. When it hit the approval, everyone was kind of in their school mode. And I think there were some of those things going on.
Absolutely. A lot of this came out very late.
Yes.
Including the actual rules didn't come out until beginning of February. Locations, I think the actual application to host an event had to be done by March 1st, and then an answer whether you were approved or not wouldn't come until as late as April 1st. So, people just didn't even know what the options were, let alone what these rule changes were. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and the thing is, and when are people the busiest, especially if it has to be run by a school, and it's basketball related? Probably March is the busy, or February are busy times as it is. So
you're absolutely right. And then on top of that, how many school districts, are going to actually have the facilities to be able to host, a 32 or a 64 or a 100-team tournament?
I mean,
so that just wipes out a whole segment of people who, especially small schools, who just aren't even going to be able to run an event.
No. I mean, you look at our state, we probably have 3 areas. We probably have the Fox Valley, Green Bay area. We probably have the Milwaukee area, and we have our area that would have the facilities to be able to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, nowhere in northern Wisconsin would there be facilities otherwise you'd be traveling 50 miles to find the next, appropriate thing. So, yeah. So I think that will narrow itself down, I think. How do you think it'd be interesting how the grassroots AAU is going to pivot with this? They kind of already moved a little bit, but I think this is going to grow. I think they're going to expand more than 2 weekends, to be honest with you.
It's definitely going to be interesting how it shakes out, because I know early on, and I don't know where this is at, but early on there had been 3 or 4 of the biggest AAU groups in the country had come together, and I hired Ed O'Bannon's lawyer to sue the NCAA about these rule changes. And I think that was part of why there was a delay in things coming out, is that there was some litigation going on, and I don't know the details. I haven't read.
Right.
But I know that did happen. And so, these people, this is how they make their livelihood.
Right.
Some of these groups, have 700 plus teams, right, and run tournaments all over the country and make millions of dollars. And
right,
all of a sudden, you take 2 live period weekends away, that's obviously going to impact
it's a lot of
people's
money.
business.
Yes. And the thing is, here's my thought, and this is what I've always told people is, I got into coaching high school basketball. I love the kids. I love teaching. I love the kids. So I love that the NCAA, it's the first time I feel like the NCAA has actually listened to people, in that, put it back. I have a theory, and I've told college coaches this. I have a theory. I think the NCAA has, especially the basketball level, has enough money that they should have one person that all they do is recruit. They can't do anything but recruit. They can't go to practice. They can only recruit. And you let them go out as much as they want during the high school season, So because in the old days, they used to show up in my high school gym a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that person's only job, and I know we're talking probably the high majors and blah, that can afford to have just a person that recruits, but it's about recruiting is about building relationships. And if someone shows up at your gym for 5 high school games, they're pretty serious about you, kind of thing.
Yep.
So,
yep.
I thought that's the way they could kind of, and doing what they did here with these tournaments, it's moving it back. So I know I'm going to take heat for the next comment, but your tournament felt like a high school tournament in January that our team would normally play in. A lot of these tournaments don't feel like that. I don't want to say, because there are very well run AAU tournaments, but half of them are like, ooh, this seems a little shady. It is a nice way of putting it. And that didn't feel like that. Now that's where I think the swing is coming back. If you've been in education long enough, things are kind of like this pendulum. They go back and forth. And I think we're swinging back to them trying to go, whoa, we need to get this back in terms of the high schools, the people that are educators and kind of are doing this for, for the kids, basically. We're doing this to just show them. Because I think your big point is we're, and I've coached some of these kids. Those are the 1%ers, the kids that, that are getting the shoe contracts, the EYBL, all those kids are, trust me, Coach K is finding Jalen Johnson. There's no problem him finding Jalen. But
Absolutely.
Those are the exceptions to the rule. What we're doing is we're missing those D2, D3 NAI kids because they think they're getting seen, but they're not really getting seen.
Right.
And
right.
that's the problem. They're being sold a false bill of sales is basically the problem, I think. So what else? Anything else from the tournament? What were the hard and easy parts of it?
So the easy part was once it started, it ran itself,
right?
And it was really enjoyable, and it was great to have a bunch of FaceTime with coaches like you and college coaches. That we may have met before and talked before, but they're there repeatedly 3 days in a row, and you don't want to talk to them too much, but you also want to let them know that they're always welcome in Rockford, and what can we do to help, and get suggestions and feedbacks to how we can make our event better. But the leading 3 months, and especially the 6 weeks before the actual events, it was a ton of work, high stress, long hours. Fortunately, we had a team of people that worked really well together and weren't afraid of hard work and diving in and making sure that, we were going to do what was best for kids and programs. And so, that was hard, and it was a really tough May and June. As far as me getting out of balance was becoming a workaholic.
Right.
But it was, once it started, man, it was well worth it, and something we absolutely want to do again, and just build on it and get better. And, as far as what we can improve on, nothing that the fan or the coaches that attended would even see, but, it's like, if you're a painter and you had a painting business or something, you always see what's wrong with people's paint jobs, even though, 99% of the other people don't see it. And so that's
right.
Some of the little things we need to tweak just to get better. I also, we're going to be heavily involved with upcoming coaches and high school association meetings regarding these events, and have some pretty strong opinions about, what we think need to be done nationally and within the state. But I also think that, I have to commend Illinois. I think, Chicago area is arguably, the mecca of high school basketball.
Right.
And
I think
and
part of it is I think is our location.
Yeah. Well,
if you're in
absolutely.
California, you don't really want to go to New York. I mean, it's a lot easier to go to Chicago than it is. I mean, we're in the middle of the country, so we are the prime place for one of these, in my opinion.
Yep. And I have to commend our state association, because they really opened the doors, and they were very accommodating and willing and eager to dive in and support high school basketball, which certainly was not the case with other state associations nationally.
Right. So what did the college coaches give you any advice, anything that they liked or didn't like, or because it could have been like facilities or having to drive 30 miles to the next game or something like that.
Yeah, and that was the comment we heard over and over again. Great facilities, and they were within, a 5-minute drive.
Right.
Whereas, some of the events, and this is just, being in a big Chicago just doesn't, it's so built up, and property value is so expensive that there just aren't facilities everywhere. And so some of the events in Chicago, although it was 8 miles to the next facility, it was a 45-minute drive in reality.
Right. It was like, we went to Golden Corral between one of our sets. That's how much time we had. So it definitely works. So is there, I think that's what makes it nice. and people are going, why do the college coaches care about distance? Well, it's because they might want to see John at one gym, put their face in, and then still get to a game where Sam is playing. They can see both of them in that hour window, and it helps their recruit. I mean, that's what people don't understand, is sometimes it's just they gotta see them, they gotta make FaceTime, blah blah blah, because they're already communicating with some of them. But if it's far away, they got to pick which kids, which game, when they see them, and it limits their abilities, I think, a lot.
You're absolutely right. And then on top of that, to build on that, is you notice that we were running 4 or 3 courts right next to each other, and we intentionally scheduled games so that coaches could watch multiple kids at the same time on multiple courts. And
right.
So that was another thing that they absolutely loved, is that they're sitting in between 2 courts, and so
Yes.
they're not showing favoritism, but they're watching 4 different kids at the same time, and every kid thinks that they're watching just them.
Yes.
And so they feel good. The college coach feels good, and they've, like you said, they didn't have to travel 35 minutes to just see a second kid.
So as this grows, here's what I would think too: as this grows, because you sometimes have gaps between games. Somehow Rockford and the community has to figure out things for people to do in that window when they're, you might have a 9 o'clock game and not play till 4 or something. And that didn't really happen to us, but as you get bigger, that might happen. It would be interesting how the community could get involved. I was thinking about that as we were eating lunch one day. It's like, I don't know much about Rockford. You would think that would be great for the community and the Visitors Bureau and stuff like that too.
Yeah. They Visitor Bureau is very, very supportive and helpful, and we directed. You're exactly right. We directed teams to miniature golf and go-karting, and the second weekend, Fred Van Vliet had come back, and there was like a Fred Van Vliet parade and fan party, and I know a bunch of the teams went down there in between games to see him. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right, and we are very fortunate to have a great relationship with the Visitors Bureau, and there's certainly a lot of things to do in Rockford.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm sure. All right. So any parting words, anything that you think? So is it going to be the same weekend next year? Do you have a website, anything like that for people? And I will make sure I put these in the show notes when it goes out.
Yeah, we do have a website. I'll forward you the link.
Okay.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
It's okay.
We don't know the weekends yet. We're told, we just asked that question last week because we've reserved facilities for the 2 corresponding weekends, as well as the weekend before and the weekend after. So the second weekend in June and the first weekend in July, just in case there's some sort of shift. But we're all in. It's very important for us to do the team showcase, and that it's open to every state in the continental United States, if their association allows it. Again, this is personal to me because I wasn't a high major kid. I was fortunate enough to play Division II at a small school in Vermont, and I still stay in touch with a lot of the guys, and it was a really great experience for me. And
where in Vermont? I went to Dartmouth. Where in Vermont did you go to school?
Castleton University.
Okay.
Castleton State College was what it was called at the time. But I went to Dartmouth basketball camp every summer for like 8 years in a row.
Oh, it's awesome. My son, we already went out to the first one. We're going out to one because he's looking more at schools, and he's looking at some like the Bowdens and the Bates and the Colbys and he's looking at really good schools. If he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, but he loves it. He can shoot. So, yeah.
Colby was there. Maybe they were looking at him.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Colby was there.
Unless they're looking for a 6'1" kid that can shoot the ball out, they probably weren't. But if he can get, the thing is, it's funny. Some of those schools are like the 1%ers for the like Jalen Johnsons, the kids that go to the play in the Nike or the Jordan Brand Classic or whatever. You gotta your ACT and your grade point average need to be crazy good to even get a sniff from those schools. So. the amount of kids that they can recruit are pretty small, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that was part of the fun is like Colby's coach was out, and that was most of the conversation was that kid there. I like him. What do you know about his academics?
Right.
You know, it wasn't all about basketball. It was about, you know, what percent are they in? You know, what's their rank in their class? What's their ACT?
Right. Yeah. That's the first question everybody's asked about. They it's funny because the last thing they ask for is film. The first thing they ask for is, can this kid even have a shot to get in, kind of thing. It's like, okay, well that as you right. And as you know, all those leagues out there are fantastic. Oh, they're unbelievably good. Yeah.
It's just great. It's just great basketball and, you know, great fun. Man, we used to go up to Dartmouth football. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's you know what I tell people, it's New Hampshire and Vermont. Once my brother lives in Manchester right now, or Bedford right now. So once you get up in the state, I said it's very similar to northern Wisconsin and northern Illinois, except it's hillier. That's the difference. It's you know,
yep.
I sit at my brother's cabin, and you know, you have the White Mountains in the background. You know, it's kind of that kind of difference, but it's very similar. So it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Acadia is one of my favorite national parks. It's in my top 10. So people get up to Maine and stuff, but and I don't think the winters are as bad either for people that want to live out there. It's something about the
no, I mean, well, you don't the mountains cut the wind shear, so you don't have the wind like you do here.
Yeah, that's it. It's the mountains and stuff. Well, thank you, Matt, for being on. I'm gonna book it right now. We'll do a follow-up next year after the tournament to see how it's changed. Because are you gonna limit it, or is there a finite number of teams that you can take?
We can, with the facilities that we have close by, we can go up to 160. I think 160.
Okay.
Is the absolute max.
Okay.
And we are more than happy to facilitate 2 weekends with 160 teams coming to town.
So you were about half full then, if you think 160 is where you could end up.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's good. I mean, and I think your selling point too. I think your selling point to a lot of things is the commutes, to be honest with you. Because if you think about it, you can fly into, think all the places you can fly into. You can fly into Chicago, or you can fly into O'Hare and Midway. You can also fly into Milwaukee. You could fly into, I mean, Rockford has a little one. You could fly into Madison. I mean, there's lots of close places that, you know, you don't necessarily have to fly into Chicago to do that too. Milwaukee's just about as close. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually Calvary Christian from Fort Lauderdale flew into Indianapolis because the tickets were like half the price, and rented a couple club vans and drove from Indy.
I know, yeah, my team, we're playing in, we go to a lot of winter tournaments during our season. And this year we're going to Florida, and we're playing outside of Orlando. It was cheaper. It was like half the price to fly into Jacksonville and drive from Jacksonville to Orlando. And Jeremy, my AD goes, "Is that okay?" I go, "It's 90 miles. I'm going to save, I'm going to save $15,000 to drive 90 miles. I can do that."
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that big of a deal, but any parting words, Coach?
Well, we appreciate you guys coming down, and we really, you were talking about Wisconsin reminding you of Vermont, New Hampshire. That's one of the reasons we love being in Madison, and just the whole vibe there reminds me of back home. And so we just appreciate all you folks up there, and you guys are always welcome, whether it's the showcase in the summer during the live period, or any of our events throughout the season. Hopefully the WIAA helps you guys out. It gives you more games you can play during the year.
Well, we did.
We'd love to have you down.
They expanded it to 24.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So we're getting closer. We're still probably in the low end for the country, I think, but we're getting closer.
So we're at 35. Period. There's no tournament. how many games you can play here or there. It's just straight 35.
Wow, that's a lot. How do you find the? I mean, shoot, we get a snow day, and I have a hard time finding weekends or times when we can play. That's 35 is a wow. Do you do scrimmages? Do you allow scrimmages in Illinois?
Illinois does not recognize scrimmages, and so,
Okay.
for example, for our tip-off classic, Hollywood MacArthur, Florida comes up. They've been coming. I think this will be their 4th year.
Okay.
And they're actually playing. They get 5 scrimmage games.
Yeah,
Their games that they're playing are for them they're scrimmages, but for us, because Illinois doesn't recognize scrimmages, they're actual
games
and can be categorized as games for their season.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you have 35, you don't really need a scrimmage, I guess. You can always just schedule appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you know, coaching the high school season is grueling. But when it's 35 games, I mean, it really,
Well, and there's no off season. I mean, my off season is literally, in 2 weeks when we leave, and we'll go to New Hampshire for a couple of weeks, and we're gonna look at some schools for my son because he's a rising senior. But there's no off season for high school coaches. Like, that's what people don't realize. It's like I mean, one of my friends just got a job, and he goes, "You didn't tell me how much time there'd be." I go, "What? Like, there's no summer. Like, what are you talking about? I'm in the gym every day, basically, almost."
Yep.
So that's what I don't think people realize. It's like, if you're going to run a successful high school program, there's really no off season. Like, I'm always thinking about something. And it's like you're already planning for a year from now for the tournament. So,
right.
Yeah, there's always something. Well, I'm glad you love Madtown. It's a great place. And we're definitely coming back next year. I appreciate taking a hot Sunday morning to talk this tournament. I really appreciate it, Coach.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Coach. Hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know how we can help. Teachhoops.com, if you click up above and down below, is the one-stop shopping for basketball coaches. It's not only community, it's not only resources, it's not only mentoring from me, it's a little bit of everything. I've been there. I've won lots of championships and lots of rings. I can help you become a better basketball coach. Let me know how I can do that. Enjoy the day.